Yep. Tell me you guys saw the introduction to Bobby Roode and Chad Gable last night. Basically being introduced as the Usos, or at least that's what the template said. Letting the cat out of the bag and ruining the surprise for what was about to come. Sure, it was kind of already expected when they dropped the titles last Tuesday on SmackDown to the Hardy Boys, but that was one of your big unveilings for the Superstar SHAKEUP. That was one of your new acquisitions to Raw, a dynamic tag team in the Usos, and you ruined it by calling Gable and Roode the Usos. At what point do we stop throwing this company mulligans? At what point do we stop saying, it's a little mistake, it's alright? Because this company continues to make one tragic, illogical decision after the other. So no, I will no longer be throwing them mulligans. I will no longer be giving them the benefit of the doubt. And I no longer will be holding back on calling them out on their bullshit, no matter how small anymore. Because this shows you how far off the tracks this company is. It ain't just the old man anymore. It's everybody under him. This company doesn't know if it's coming or going. They can't even get the templates correct on who the hell is showing up next on the program. Vince is changing his mind every other minute from the program, for the program. I don't want to hear about travel issues. I don't want to hear about some people couldn't make it. The amount of talent they had last night, that is more than enough to put on a 6-hour show if done creatively. We had multi-man schmaz palooza last night, and you're telling me there wasn't enough superstars to rewrite a kick-ass show? You give me Hornswoggle, David Arquette, Enzo Amore, and Eric Bischoff. Those 4 individuals were the only ones to make it to Raw last night for a 3-hour program. And I will make Hornswoggle, Enzo Amore, David Arquette, and Eric Bischoff. I will make them and turn them into gold. I will produce 3 hours of captivating epic television. You just gotta get creative. Are you kidding me? And I'm supposed to just sit back and laugh at the gaffe, right? Oh, they call them the Usos. Oh shit, the Usos were coming out. That was supposed to be the surprise, but it's ruined. That's a great fucking Raw debut for the fucking Usos. I'm going to talk more in depth about the Usos in a bit. Trust me, for everyone who said, CBC, that's why they dropped the titles, because they were going to Raw. As if that's fucking a great decision any which way you look at it. But I'll get to that. Along with a fucking Viking experience that we're all about to go on. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just run through this entire night top to bottom real quick for you guys. I don't gotta keep you here long, so you can go and kick Tuesday's ass, as I'm going to, because not much to go over. I don't want to put you to sleep like Raw did. Although something tells me I'm going to be 27 times more entertaining than Raw. But let's start from the top. And it looked promising. Stephanie McMahon and Shane McMahon in the middle of the ring. And they're about to introduce Raw's first acquisition in the SHAKEUP. And Stephanie and Shane go to introduce this superstar. Shane McMahon shows a package about what he did to George, Miz's father, just to get some more heat. So I thought that was really epic. And then all of a sudden, before the superstar they're about to announce is introduced, Miz's music hits. And Shane's like, all right, let's do this. Stephanie, leave the ring. I got this. Shane McMahon's about to take out the Miz once he comes down that rampway, but Miz never comes down the ramp. Miz jumps Shane McMahon from behind. The brawl is on. I love this because I love this whole Miz-Shane McMahon storyline. I think they're dynamic together, whether in a tag team or beating the shit out of each other. Shane McMahon gets the upper hand, actually throws the Miz into the crowd. Miz, when he comes back, he's busted up. His whole skull, he's he's got color. So that was really good to see. The top of the hour, fresh, starting a new Monday Night Raw. Miz is busted open. Miz is able to get the upper hand thanks to a steel chair. Shane McMahon retreats to the back. Miz has the chair up high. Like, this ain't over with. He's bleeding. I'm like, this is a good way to start Raw. I like this. It's a storyline I actually care about. One of only 2 storylines that we've had all year so far. Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan. Miz, Shane McMahon. That's the only 2 real storylines that I can think of that we've all been captivated from start to finish. So I'm down with that. You got Miz with color, Shane's retreating. You think something cool here. You're not going to hold your breath. You're not going to think the whole show is going to be good, but maybe they really are looking at this as a shakeup within the company too, meaning creatively. Maybe they're actually going to start doing things even a little better. Even a little better, right? Baby steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, I understand, brick by brick. Maybe those were the first bricks in the foundation of a new Raw, a new era of actual change, right? Again, we're not holding our breath, we're not actually believing that, but we're holding the thought of maybe. And then the rest of the show happened. And that put those thoughts straight out the window, straight through the door, slam that shit shut, lock it, never to come back in. Those thoughts were never to return about having a decent Raw. Because what came next was 2 hours and 50 minutes of redundant, nonsensical bullshit to the highest degrees possible. Before I get to the rest of it, it's obvious why The Miz was drafted to Raw, guys. Miz and Mrs. is a show exclusively for USA Network. So with SmackDown going over to Fox, business-wise, it would be much tougher for The Miz to promote Miz and Mrs. on the USA Network while doing that on Fox. So Miz had to go over to USA Network. I understand that. It just seems like the moves, I can speak, The Miz moves every single shakeup to the other brand. So for me, it's just getting a little redundant. The Miz seems like one of those people that always switches over to the other brand. He never stays put. But again, I understand the business decision here. He has to promote Miz and Mrs. if there is indeed a 3rd, 4th, 5th season in the future. And he's over there on SmackDown on Fox talking about telling everyone to go over to the USA Network. It ain't gonna work. I understand that. Next up, guys, we have an 8-man tag schmaz match. Right off the bat, why is Ricochet and Aleister Black still together? This was the perfect time, and I mean legit, perfect time to separate them. That's it. Be done with it. Finito. It's finished. Aleister Black looks so weird with Ricochet because it's 2 contrasting characters. And sometimes 2 contrasting things can go good together. Peanut butter and jelly on paper wouldn't go together. You put the shit together and it's delicious. But you cannot put Ricochet and Aleister Black together for too long and expect all of us to believe in it. Aleister Black should be a badass individual character in its own self. Ricochet is something totally different. You put them together, but why? You had them together for a whole month and a half beforehand. You got the WWE Universe introduced to who they are. That's great. The brand split is perfect to showcase them the way they should be, just like they were on NXT, as individuals. They have to sink or swim on the main roster as individuals. Ricochet has what it takes to be an individual. Aleister Black should be promoted and marketed as an individual. This is hurting Black way more than Ricochet, trust me. That Aleister Black character, man, there were so much high expectations and high hopes when he got to the main roster. Aside from how they could destroy him, trust me, those were our fears and doubts. But we did have high hopes because we knew the character, just like Demon Bálor, can hold its own weight. But now that we know that him and Ricochet are in a long-term tag team, This is damaging to both. Alistair more than Ricochet. They're gonna go out there and do cool moves in a nonsensical tag team division. That's more than redundant and more than boring. That's the truth about Black and Ricochet. And they're out there tagging up with Hawkins and Ryder, and they're taking on the Revival and the Viking Experience. That's right. Can't make that up. The War Raiders, the Viking Experience is what they are now. It's bad enough they were once War Machine, and then they had to go to War Raiders. That name change wasn't bad enough. Now they have to be called the Viking Experience. That's right. If you didn't catch Raw last night, and I'm your first review that you're checking out or you're only, thank you, first of all. Secondly, I'm not fibbing you. This is no lie. This isn't a ha-ha moment. The War Machine / Raiders are now called the Viking Experiment. Experience! Maybe it is an experiment. If it is, it failed within the first hour. Because if you saw social media explode with displeasure, WWE's own former talent in suits and ties in the company today had to actually start responding and defending the name change. That's how bad it got. The Viking Experience. How can you get behind such a corny name? That's like us catapulting Duke the Dumpster Droese to the main event status and saying, he's my hero, I want his t-shirt. Give me Duke the Dumpster Droese. Give me Doink the Clown as my t-shirt and let's catapult him to the main event and give him all the championships. Doink the Clown! Bastion Booger. Give me Bastion Booger, please. Give me the Viking Experience. That sounds just wrong in every which way, actually. Don't give me the Viking Experience. I don't even want to know what that is. It sounds honestly, guys, the Viking Experience, if you were to just tell me that up front, hey, did you catch the Viking Experience lately? Or did you see the Viking Experience last? I would honestly not know what the fuck you're even in the realm of talking about. That sounds like a Disney World attraction. The newest ride at Disneyland. Or the newest section in the New York History Museum. Go check out our new wing, the Viking Experience. An all-new display. No, they're an actual professional wrestling tag team that was once really cool, once badass, and now, instantly, because of a name change, looked at as clowns. Good job, WWE. They put them together with the Revival, which I know every week they're either face or heel, but basically the Revival is heel, correct? So that looked awkward last night because the Viking Experience was supposed to be, or they were marketing themselves last night during that match as if they're faces. But the Revival was heel, and then after the match was all done, which by the way, in case you care, which I doubt anybody does because it's a schmoz match, Hawkins and Ryder dropped this match to the Viking Experience. So your champions, by the way, your tag team champions, Hawkins and Ryder, that's right, you probably forgot about that because A, it's Hawkins and Ryder, and B, it's a tag team championship in WWE, so of course they're irrelevant. But your champions took a nonsensical loss last night. The Viking Experience, I can't even believe I'm saying those words. And I'm supposed to take myself seriously and ask you guys to take me seriously when I'm saying the words Viking Experience. But they're acting as if they're faces, they're with the Revival, which is heels, and when this match was all over, the Viking Experience is doing their war chant. The only problem is, the fans are already confused in attendance about the whole Viking Experience bullshit, so nobody's doing it with them. So everything that makes them badass, gone, and on top of that, if the Viking Experience wasn't bad enough, Maybe you're okay with that. Maybe you think that's the coolest name. Or you think we can get used to it. Names don't mean that much, BC. I can get used to it. The Undertaker could have been a weird name at first, right? We got used to it. Mick Foley said it last night. Mick Foley said something on social media. He was like, I'm sure you guys would have thought if the internet was around in 96 that Mankind was a weird name. Well, you weren't called the Mankind Experience. That would have been weird. It wasn't called the Undertaker Experience. But if that wasn't bad enough, they even took Hanson and Rowe away from them. Their actual names, like their identity, they took those names away from them. It's no more Hanson and Rowe. I didn't even catch their names. Ivar? Some shit. Honestly, it could be Fat Fuck McGee and Tulips Tigamajins, and it wouldn't make a difference. Tulips Tigamajins would probably be more epic than Ivar. Try spelling that nameplate, people. Tulips Tulamajikins. Spell that shit. They took their identity away from them. And when they came back from a commercial break, Michael Cole had the audacity, the balls, the cojones, the how you doings, to actually say, in the ring now is the team known as the Viking Experience. No, that is not what they're known as. Nobody even knows who the fuck these people are. These are totally different people, totally different identity at this point. They have started from scratch. Everything they worked for down in developmental, right? That's what we want to call NXT, developmental brand. Everything they did down there for nothing. It started from scratch. By the end of that match, zero response, because nobody who knows who these people are. We know the War Machine. We know the War Raiders. We know Hanson. We know Rowe. What did you present last night? This is an experience I don't want to experiment with. It's an experience I don't want to experience. How's that? I understand the word that I'm getting. I got this word late last night from people that know what they're talking about. Vince McMahon does not and will not use the word war in his names for his characters and his superstars. So war was not going to be used. In NXT it can be used because you're not dealing with all the advertisers that the main roster is dealing with. You're on the network. The point is, they can go out and reach out to advertisers, but WWE tries to seek them out by advertisers going to them. And they're fearful that their word war will not do that. In NXT, they don't got to worry about that, much less advertisers. And your demographic is much smaller. You're on the network. We all know the fan base that watches NXT, or the bulk of it. Triple H knows that as well, Vince does. You can get away with a lot more. And I'm sure Triple H knew that the name would have to be changed when they get to the main roster, but Triple H likes to be cool and innovative, and he likes badass. So he said, no, as long as you're in NXT, we're going to keep it. We're going to keep the name war in there. And we'll deal with that when we get there. Well, guess what? We got there, and now you have to deal with it, and that's the best they come up with. So if you have to take the word war out of the name, that's one thing. But to come up with that as your best option, the Viking Experience, I have to call bullshit on that. That cannot be the best creative decision you had for Hanson and Rowe. And then you change their names. Why? Is Hanson trademarked or something with the three, that boy band Hanson? And what's Rowe? Is it too close to Eric Rowan? I mean, this is the thought process Vince probably goes through when he changes shit. We already kind of have a Rowe. His name's Rowan. And Hanson, isn't that the Mbop people? Mbop-a-deep-a-dop-mbop? Yes, Vince, that's them. Well, we can't have them. Let's have Ivar and Igar and Igar and Igor and Ijar and Emor. Let's bring the whole family of Ors in there. trust me, this is what Vince will do. By the end of the month, we're going to have 100 Vikings. It's going to be like a Viking stable. Sarah Logan will be in there. I think her husband is one of them anyway. Ro, correct, is her husband. I think they're actually married, no longer boyfriend-girlfriend. So Sarah Logan should just join him at this point. Could it make him any worse? Who knows? And that's what you can't even say war anymore. You can't even say war. What the hell happened to the world? You say war, you're shunned. I don't even... I promise you guys this would be quick and we'd run through it. I'm not going to spend any more time on, the War Raiders. Some people say, why not just call them the Vikings? I'm pretty sure Vince does not want an NFL team as his WWE team. The Vikings are an NFL team. Why not just call them the Raiders? That's an NFL team. Vince is coming up with the XFL. He doesn't want team names, guys. That's the truth. But you could have come up with a million more different names, man, that are 10 times more kick-ass, badass, epic. Anyway, moving on. Finn Bálor, guys, he took on a new Raw acquisition in the shakeup, Andrade Cien Almas. Or I'm sorry, just Andrade. Can't keep their old names from NXT. Zelina Vega by his side. I love... This is a good acquisition for Raw. This is what Andrade needed, and this would be a good acquisition for Raw as a whole. Zelina was on her points last night, man. Zelina was a great mouthpiece last night. She just looked really good on Raw. It's like she belongs there. This was a good fast-paced match with Zelina interfering late in the match to set up the Raw debut victory for Andrade over Finn Bálor. This was another champion because, again, guys, I know this is irrelevant. Probably you didn't even know because you didn't care because it's always hot potatoed. But Finn Bálor is actually the Intercontinental Champion. So to see another champion just lose in the middle of Raw, flat on his back, in a nonsensical match, what does this say about the champions and the championships? That's all I'm asking. Good for Andrade, horrible for Finn Bálor. Rey Mysterio interrupts an Elias performance. Rey Mysterio is a new acquisition for Raw from SmackDown. Woo fucking woo. Was anybody throwing a parade after that? Was anybody jumping out of their seats going, wow, Rey Mysterio's on Raw? Me neither. We like Rey Mysterio. We really do, man. But if you're not giving him epic storylines and he's 10 steps slower than what he once was, then what the fuck is he really doing on the roster nowadays, in main storylines anyway? We went from John Cena and The Undertaker interfering or interrupting Elias's performance to Rey Mysterio. And that was just to set up, who was it? Fucking Lars Sullivan. Big boy Sullivan comes down to the ring. Rey Mysterio, being the fighter that he is, no matter his size, he steps up to Lars Sullivan. In fact, Rey Mysterio, for a good 90 seconds, beats the shit out of Lars Sullivan. And at the very end, Lars Sullivan catches him, slams him, and then gives him a devastating powerbomb. Now, yes, this was a devastating powerbomb, but that didn't make Lars Sullivan look like a badass. He got beat up for 90 seconds, and then he did 2 moves to Rey Mysterio. And what did that do for Mysterio? He makes Elias run to the back, looking strong, does Rey Mysterio, and then Rey Mysterio just looks like he got punked out by Lars Sullivan. So if that wasn't 50-50 booking without even having a match, I don't know what is. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable come out as the Usos, or at least that's what the template says. So in case you didn't know the Usos were going to show up on Raw, well, surprise! Sort of. Out come the Usos. Well, first of all, Gable... See, this is what I mean about ruining the surprise. Gable and Roode say any tag team in the back, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, it doesn't matter. We have an opening. Anybody want to come out and face us? Let's do this. And they were already called the Usos, so you knew the Usos were coming out. And sure enough, here come the Usos. This is where I get BC, see? The Usos dropped the titles because they were going to Raw. You say that like it makes any sense. How about making the tag titles relevant from a team that was more than established on SmackDown like the Usos. Make the titles relevant. The Usos already had the titles relevant. They had a multi-month run. They were looking dominant. They were performing at the best of their... They were performing at their peak. The best of their ability and capabilities that we've ever seen the Usos. They were the best tag team. I've been saying that for weeks now. The Usos are the best tag team in pro wrestling. And they had the straps. If you're gonna make them lose it because you knew they were going to Raw, then you set up the epic WrestleMania match. Hardys versus Usos at Mania. Hardys win the straps. Then the Usos go to the Monday Night Raw brand the following Monday. Instead, they give us an 8-person schmaz match at WrestleMania. 8 men going for 2 titles. A schmaz. And then in the middle of SmackDown, we get the epic Hardy Boy Uso match when nobody's paying attention. After 10 minutes, the Hardy Boys win the championships. And everyone goes, see, there's a meaning to this, BC. They're going to Raw. You couldn't have done this better. In fact, I would not have had the Usos go to Raw then. The titles mean something finally. The Usos are at the best of their game right now. You keep them on there, and you keep the tag team division as relevant as you possibly can. The Usos were one of the bright spots of your tag division. Some would say the only bright spot. Let's have them drop the titles in the middle of SmackDown just because we want to bring them to Raw. What the fuck? And you couldn't have done that awesome match at Mania. This is what I mean about the company not knowing if they're coming or going. They don't know what they're doing a day in advance, not a week in advance, a month in advance, not even 2 hours in advance. And when they do know what they're doing 2 hours in advance, they change it 2 minutes beforehand. Usos defeat Gable and Rude with a double splash to Gable. Usos versus Revival for the straps could be really cool in the future, if done correctly. But oh wait, the Revival already dropped the straps to Ryder and Hawkins. Again, if you knew the Usos are coming, why have the Revival drop the straps to Hawkins and Ryder on the pre-show? The pre-show of WrestleMania. You could have just had the Revival hold on to those things. The Usos are coming. That's a badass feud for the future, if done correctly. No. Let's have Hawkins and Ryder get the straps. Like anybody wants to see Usos versus Hawkins and Ryder. Seriously. Nothing this company does anymore seems to make any sense. And for the longest time, people within the company try to defend it and say you don't know what it's like. When you're in the company, when you're in the business, when you're in the trenches, you see why things are done the way they're done. No, what I'm seeing is nothing but tragic, illogical booking, one mistake at a time after time. That's the truth. Sami Zayn on a moment of bliss. McMahon and Kevin Dunn totally fucking with Zayn in this segment. I loved it. Sami Zayn was on all cylinders when he came out, playing to the crowd, jamming out to his music. He sits down. Kevin Dunn played it again. Vince and Kevin Dunn had the music team play it again, man. You saw the look on Zayn's face like, all right, I'll do it again. He does it again. He dances around. He gets the crowd pumped. He sits down. They played it again. At this point, Zayn was like, seriously? Because at that point, he knows he's being fucked with. I thought that was a really cool rib that they played on Sami Zayn. I love that. That was a really cool behind-the-scenes type rib. And you knew that was a rib if you know the business, man. The look on Sami Zayn's face was like, seriously, guys? Because he's supposed to be playing the heel anyway. He was drained. He couldn't even go another time, but he tried. So I love that rib that McMahon and Dunn played on Sami Zayn. I think that came straight from Vince McMahon. Had Dunn make the call. Zayn hits his homeland of Montreal pretty hard. And he says, the best thing I did was leave this place and go to sunny Orlando, Florida. That is my home now. Everybody serenaded him with na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. And Sami Zayn just said, yeah, I'll see you all in hell. Drops the mic and he walks off. I don't know, in a weird way, I like that moment of bliss. In the third hour, I wish I could say this was any better than the first 2 hours, but it was probably, if not the same level of tragic, even more tragic. You got Bayley and Naomi defeating the Iconics. Now, that's right. I said that correctly. Naomi is on the Raw brand. That's cool. You kind of knew that once you saw the Usos join Raw. And you knew Jimmy was on Raw. You kind of knew Naomi was going to be there as well. And on one hand, you look at this as a new beginning, a fresh start for Naomi. But you can't help but think that Naomi is just going to job to the Raw women's roster just like she was jobbing to the SmackDown women's roster. Is Vince really going to give Naomi the time of day now? Just mind-bogglingly tragic the way they use Naomi. But last night, she gets a victory. So you should be saying, you guys are probably thinking, BC, you're saying you don't want her to job. She won last night. So what's the problem? The problem is they beat the tag team champions. What they did with the Iconics last week was brilliant. I told you guys. They beat jobbers last week, like legit jobbers. They called them the finest tag team they could find in Brooklyn, but we knew they were just two local talents, two schlubs, two nobodies. And the Iconics defeated them. That's what garners more heat. We know the Iconics are not known to be the best wrestlers in the division. That's okay. They're great on the mic, they're entertaining, and they cheat to win. So you play to their strengths, you hide their weaknesses. By putting them in a match last week with actual jobbers, it not only garners them heat, but it's realistic that they would win the match. And it keeps building their stock. So I praised that segment last week because that's how the Iconics should be being used. So what do? This week they put them in there with Bayley and Naomi. Why? Bayley and Naomi end up defeating the Iconics. So your tag team champions defeated 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. A, what does it do for the champions? B, what does it do for the championships? If it seems like I already asked that question earlier in the video, it's because I already asked that question earlier in the video. Because we already saw the men's Raw Tag Team Champions pinned 1, 2, 3 last night. Hawkins and Ryder. So then on the women's side, their champions also got pinned 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring last night. The Intercontinental Champion, Finn Bálor, pinned 1, 2, 3 last night in the middle of the ring. All of them in nonsensical, non-championship matches. So why are you making your champions look like chumps, and why are you lowering the stock level of your championships? More and more every week, more and more every show. Great to see Naomi pick up a victory in a nonsensical tag team match, as if that does anything. But the Iconics should not be dropping matches like this already. Corey Graves had another jab at Sasha Banks, even though Sasha Banks wasn't even there last night. And Corey Graves said, Sasha lost her ball and quit the game. Yowzas. He throws digs at Sasha Banks hardcore, but that was really hard because, with all the turmoil that's been going on with Sasha Banks, that's like kicking somebody when they're down. But you guys know, man, it's like a love-hate relationship with Corey Graves. There's so many things you want to smack this guy upside his head with for. You know what I mean? Just like the things he does or says. But at the end of the day, he's awesome in that role. I love him as that Bobby Heenan-esque commentator. We'll never get anyone like Bobby Heenan, trust me. But he plays that role so good. He's very quick-witted, very smart. He can jump and transfer at any moment where he needs to be or what he needs to say. Whatever needs to be fitted into, he can do it. Drop of a fucking hat, drop of a dime, man. And I love that about Corey Graves. He can transition is the word I wanted to use. Very fluently, flawlessly. And again, because he's so quick-witted, he comes out with these just great one-liners, man. It's like every single time a show ends with Corey Graves on commentary, I can think of a good 7 to 10 lines that he threw out there. He's hilarious. He plays that heel commentator great at a time where we no longer have true heel commentators. So I can't praise the guy more than I am. Again, sometimes you want to smack the shit out of him, right? But at the end of the day, that's exactly what I want for a commentator. I don't want just storytellers. I don't want a whole team of just face commentators that are trying to force feed us shit. But man, does he kick Sasha Banks a lot, man. And that one was extra especially hard because this was at a time when she's down, right? A lot of people are talking shit. A lot of people are coming out. Her haters are tenfold. And he said Sasha lost her ball and quit the game, man. That was hardcore. Maybe that was Vince feeding him that line. Maybe that was just Corey Graves being quick-witted like he is. I don't know. But that's the one thing that I really got from this match. Other than the Iconics already losing like that, man. And they're supposed to be your strap holders. Braun Strowman sends EC3 through a table. I'm not quite sure what this did for either superstars. I blinked and EC3 and Braun Strowman were on my screen. I blinked again, EC3 was through a table and Braun Strowman was leaving. This was all done in like 2 minutes. And again, I'm not sure what this does for either one of them. That is a forgettable moment. And they wasted a badass table spot for a nonchalant, nonsensical, I can't even call it a storyline. Segment. I can't even call it a segment. It was 2 minutes. And they wasted something like that on EC3 and Braun Strowman. What is that going to do? Lead to an EC3 Braun Strowman feud? Wow. Sign me up, said no one ever. Becky Lynch took on Ruby Riott. This match was kind of quick. It seemed like 5 minutes, and it was basically just Becky Two Belts running through the entire Riott squad. This is great for Becky Two Belts. You gotta feel bad for the Riott squad. If there was jobber status, they're below that. And I assure you, Ruby Riott is worth much more than that, or should be looked at as such. And I really like Liv Morgan. There's something about this girl. I'm not saying she's the best at what she does, but there's something about her. There's some spunk, some charisma in there. There's some chutzpah, some gusto that needs to be set free, let loose. And she's just not getting the time of day. Sarah Logan, some people feel that way about Logan that I feel about Morgan. But we all can agree Ruby Riott at least deserves more. You gotta feel bad for the Riott squad, but this night in this segment was for Becky Two Belts. Afterwards, Natty came down and had a face-to-face with Becky Two Belts. I hate that name, yet I'm using it all the time. All the time, I can speak. So what we have is one of those scenarios where you hate a song, but you can't stop singing it, basically. You know, I hate the name Becky Two Belts, but I can't stop saying it. So anyway, Natty comes out, and they have a good face-to-face. You know, Becky Lynch is basically telling Natty, instead of throwing jabs at Natty, she's saying, hey, I respect you because you're one of the lost souls here on the roster. I was one of them. That's why I respect you stepping up. But before Natty and Becky Lynch could sign the deal for a future championship match, here comes Sassy Evans, the Southern lady, Lacey Evans, a real woman that's going to take out the man. So Lacey comes out and says, hey, I've been told by the McMahons that I'm going to have a match with Natty, and the winner is going to challenge for your championship, Becky Two Belts. I'm paraphrasing. So we had a Natty and Lacey Evans match, and Lacey Evans defeated Natty. As much as this is mind-blowing to me, it probably shouldn't be, because that's what I would expect by WWE. I do have to give Lacey Evans some credit here. I love the gimmick with the right hook. You know, she's a Southern lady with a mean right hook. I like that. She knocked out Natty, and then she does her badass four-step moonsault. Really cool. Forgive me, don't know what she actually calls it. I call it the 4 steps. She's got the 2 feet on the middle rope. She jumps in the air, totally flips. Now her 2 feet are on the top rope, and she does her badass moonsault. Legs totally nailed right into the midsection of Natty last night. No botch, guys. That was a beautiful moonsault. You could say Natty wasn't in position. You could say Lacey Evans didn't hit it correct. It was a beautiful fucking moonsault. As long as she hits it, she hit it. Her fucking legs went right into the midsection of Natty. I loved it. So I do have to give, her finishers are spot on. I'm seeing vast improvements from Lacey Evans than I saw down in NXT. Or when she was in developmental, if you will. So vast improvements. I'm not saying I'm fully on board with her, but, you know, character-wise, I do have a lot of fun with Lacey Evans on this channel. You guys know that. Was it the podcast last week? At the end of it, I had a lot of fun. Yeah, I think it was the podcast last week. For those of you that don't stay through the whole show, we had some extracurricular activity, having some fun with Lacey Evans at the end of that podcast. But yeah, that sets up Lacey Evans versus Becky 2 belts. We saw that that's where it was going, and it looks like that's 100% confirmed now. Be what it be, guys. And then we ended with a 6-man tag schmaz match. Lashley, Corbin, and Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Raw's new acquisition, AJ Styles. The house that AJ Styles built has been demolished, and he's going to try to rebuild on Raw. I don't mind that at all. It looks like they got a lot more athleticism on the Raw brand, if you noticed. Even Rey Mysterio, who lost 10 steps, he's still 10 steps further than most superstars. So they got Mysterio. They got Ricochet staying there permanently now. They got Black. They went out and got AJ Styles. They got the Usos. So a lot of athleticism on Raw. Leads you to believe that SmackDown is going to have a lot more of the bigger, heavy hitters. That's what it's looking like anyway. That must be what Fox wants. But this was just a fucking schmaz match. There's nothing to talk about. Styles ended up pinning Lashley after the phenomenal forearm. I didn't give a shit about this because I cannot possibly describe to you guys how much I hate 6-man tag matches. They are boring, redundant, and not interesting in the least. We see them all the time now. Just 6-man schmazes for no reason. And now they're actually ending the show more and more. We just saw them end the show with a 6-man schmaz last week. And it didn't lead to anything. No storyline was provoked or furthered. It just ended in a weird 6-man tag with the faces celebrating. But that's not how episodic television should be ending. You should be trying to captivate your viewers so that they need to and want to follow along next week. They want to and need to tune in next week. It's called captivating your audience. It's called a cliffhanger. WWE used to do it all the time, and we had to tune in next Monday to find out what happens next. Just like last week, it just ended with the faces celebrating. Roman, Seth, AJ. No storyline furthered. No storyline that we need to care about because there is no storyline here. So I posed the same question last week, and I'm posing it again. What are we tuning in for? At least last week, your answer would be, well, at least there's the Superstar SHAKEUP, BC. It's something, I guess, right? So I gave you that mulligan. I go, all right, I guess. Now what's your excuse? There's no SHAKEUP next week, and now there's no storyline to look forward to for anyone. You just ended your 3 hours of episodic television. You ended it with nobody needing to show up next week to tune in. Nobody has to watch that. What the fuck are we... There's nothing. There's no storyline. Miz and Shane would be it. At the top of the show. We're not all going to tune in just for that. What are we tuning in for? Because AJ Styles is on Raw? Fuck out of here. That was Raw. Nothing more to talk to. I said I would keep it short, kind of longer than I even wanted to. So I'm not going to speak any more about it. You guys go on and kick the rest of Tuesday's ass. We'll tune in to SmackDown tonight, that second night of the shakeup, and we'll see what they produce. Is it going to be any better than Raw? We can only hope so. Because in the end, how can you honestly get lower than what we saw last night? Although, I should not pose that question because that's probably just jinxing the shit. I'm the Amplified Man. Make sure you guys drink your Starbucks and kick some ass today, or whatever coffee shop you love, man. But get energized, get amplified, and yeah, beat ass today, man. And we'll tune into SmackDown tonight. We'll all reconvene, same place, same time, tomorrow morning, and we will review and react to SmackDown tonight. Until then, the Amplified Man saying check you.